the heart of post-World War II Manhattan, two titans of the underworld prepare to collide in a smoke-filled VIP room. On one side, Lucky Luciano, freshly freed from Donora prison and racing against the clock before deportation. On the other, Harlem's unbeaten numbers, King Bumpy Johnson, cigar in hand, eyes unblinking. In the next 60 seconds, they'll either forge a pact that reshapes organized crime forever or ignite a war that drenches New York's streets in blood. So if you like stories like this, like and subscribe for more. February 1946. The war was done, flags waved in celebration, but behind closed doors a different struggle was underway. Lucky Luciano had spent 9 years inside Donora prison. In exchange for his help moving supplies through the Italian docks during the conflict, the U.S. government had cut his sentence, but only until loyal Americans demanded their pound of flesh. He was to be deported to Italy in less than 3 weeks. Before boarding that ship, Luciano needed to cement his legacy. The five families' power structure was intact. Frank Costello held the fort in Luciano's absence. Vito Genovese stirred trouble from overseas, and Albert Anastasia's grip on the waterfront was ironclad. Yet one empire remained beyond Italian reach: Harlem's numbers racket, a weekly lottery that generated fortunes and fed an entire community on its margins. In 1935, Dutch Schultz had tried to muscle his way into those lucrative draws, only to meet a bullet-riddled end in a New Jersey tavern. The man Schultz had underestimated was Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson, a man as elegant in his tailored suits as he was lethal in a fight. Now Luciano knew he couldn't blunder in like Schultz. If he wanted a piece of Harlem's pie, he had to approach with respect, with a proposal, not a loaded gun. So he summoned Bumpy to Manhattan's most exclusive nightclub, the Stork Club on East 53rd Street. On a chilly February evening, Luciano reserved the large mahogany table in the VIP room. He arrived flanked by Frank Costello, steely and watchful. Albert Anastasia, whose nickname, the Lord High Executioner, needed no explanation. Meyer Lansky, the cold, calculating accountant, and 3 bodyguards sworn to protect their boss at any cost. The crimson carpet muffled their footsteps as they took seats, glasses already filled with whiskey. Men in fedoras and tuxedos orbited at a discreet distance, their murmurs lost behind the plush curtains. The door swung open. He entered alone, Bumpy Johnson, his presence commanding even in silence. He wore a navy 3-piece suit, its lines sharp, with a white shirt beneath and no tie. A gold watch chain glinted at his waistcoat, and in one hand he carried a leather briefcase. His shoes, polished to a mirror sheen, clicked against the marble floor. Bodyguards tensed, hands inching toward holsters, but Luciano lifted a finger. Let him through. Bumpy paused only long enough to survey the table, then took the chair at the head, the seat customarily reserved for the boss. He set the briefcase before him, produced a cigar, and lit it. Smoke curled upward, threading through the crystal chandeliers. Not a man stirred. Costello's jaw tightened. Anastasia's hand drifted to his hip. Luciano, however, smiled. He understood the silent test. This was Bumpy's way of setting terms before a single word was spoken. "Mr. Johnson," Luciano began, tone smooth and confident, "thank you for accepting my invitation." He sat directly across from Harlem's undisputed ruler. Bumpy inhaled deeply, then exhaled toward the ceiling. "You wanted to talk," he said. "So talk." Luciano folded his hands. "I leave for Italy in 3 weeks. The feds will deport me once their deadlines arrive. But before I go, I want to ensure that New York remains peaceful. No turf wars, no bloodshed, just business as usual." Bumpy watched him, expression unreadable. Luciano continued, My organization controls the docks, the unions. We can guarantee you protection from every threat, police raids, rival gangs, any trouble that could upend your numbers operation. All I ask in return is 40% of the profits." Silence draped the room. Costello leaned forward, nostrils flared. Lansky's fingertips tapped a soft rhythm on the polished table. Anastasia flexed his knuckles, ready to erupt. Finally, Bumpy took another drag. "And if I refuse?" he asked. Luciano's smile never wavered, but his eyes hardened. "Then we have a problem, because if you're not with us, you're against us, and nobody survives against us." Again, silence, but this time the air felt charged. Bumpy set his cigar down and placed his briefcase on the table. He clicked it open and withdrew a single photograph. He slid it across. Luciano's eyes narrowed as he picked it up. In the image, Albert Anastasia stood before a warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn, shaking hands with a policeman. Both faces unmistakable. "That was taken 3 days ago," Johnson said softly. "I've got dozen more like it, different racks, different captains, all of your men at work." The entourage stiffened. Anastasia rose halfway, but Luciano held out a hand, signaling calm. His voice was low, measured. "Are you threatening me?" Bumpy smiled almost kindly. "No, I'm showing you respect. I could have made those photographs public and watched your empire crumble. Instead, I gave you a chance to come to Harlem on equal footing. A true partnership means 2 equals. Luciano placed the picture on the table, lips curved with appreciation. "So tell me, Mr. Johnson, what do you propose?" Bumpy leaned back, savoring the moment. "You asked for 40%. You can have 10. 10% of net profits, not as tribute but as a service fee. You handle our banking needs. Clean funds to pay winners. Discreet transfers so police records stay empty. You provide legal counsel when our runners get pinched. That's it. And you never set foot in Harlem to collect. No soldiers, no guns parading down 125th Street. If you want your share, you send a courier to my office and I'll have it ready. Harlem stays black and it stays mine." The room held its breath. Lansky nodded slowly. 10%, virtually no risk. That's sound business. Anastasia frowned. "What's to stop him from cutting us out once we control the banks?" Bumpy answered before Luciano could. "The same stalemate that keeps you from grabbing Harlem by force. Cross me, those photographs go public. Your political allies vanish overnight. You cut me, I'll have every witness testify, and every cop in my pocket roll in on your heads. We both lose or we both get richer. Your choice." Luciano stared at Bumpy for a long beat. Then laughter bubbled up, warm, genuine. The sound of a man recognizing a rare adversary. He stood and extended his hand. 10%, banking and legal support. No muscle walking my streets. Monthly delivery. You've got yourself a deal. Bumpy rose, accepted the handshake with a firm grip. "We have a deal." Frank Costello exhaled, tension draining away. Meyer Lansky grinned. Even Albert Anastasia resumed his seat, the room's atmosphere shifting from threat to alliance. Luciano held Bumpy's hand a moment longer. "I've done business with presidents, union bosses, killers," he said softly. "But you're the first man who looked me in the eye and said no without pulling a trigger. That's respect. Or stupidity. I haven't decided which." Bumpy returned the rare smile. "Let me know when you figure it out." 3 weeks later, Luciano boarded a ship bound for Italy. He never set foot in America again. But the agreement with Bumpy Johnson endured for 22 years. Harlem's numbers racket thrived under this uneasy truce. Bumpy paid his 10% like clockwork. The Italian families managed the money through shell companies and nominal businesses. When Bumpy was convicted in 1951 and sent to Alcatraz, Frank Costello personally saw to it that Johnson's family was protected, and in 1963, when Bumpy walked free, the Accord was still alive. That night at the Stork Club became legend among criminals on both sides of the color line, not for a spectacular shootout or gory betrayal, but for two men from different worlds sitting down and choosing cooperation over carnage. Luciano would tell his associates in Italy, "Bumpy Johnson was the smartest gangster I ever met and the most dangerous because he didn't need me to respect him. He demanded it." Bumpy kept that single photograph of Anastasia on display in his office until the day he died, not as a threat but as a reminder. True power lies in brains, not bullets. If you'd like more stories like these, please like and subscribe.